3 days later, Esther dressed in her royal robes and took up a position in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's throne room. The king was on his throne facing the entrance. When he noticed Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased to see her. The king extended his golden scepter in his hand. Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. The king asked, "And what's your desire, Queen Esther? And what do you want? Ask, and it's yours, even if it's half my kingdom." "If it please the king," said Esther, "let the king come with Haman to a dinner I've prepared for him." "Get Haman at once," said the king, "so we can go to dinner with Esther." So the king and Haman joined Esther at the dinner she had arranged. As they were drinking the wine, the king said, "Now, what is it you want? Half of my kingdom isn't too much to ask. Just ask." Esther answered, "Here is what I want. If the king favors me and is pleased to do what I desire and ask, let the king and Haman come again tomorrow to the dinner I will fix for them. Then I'll give a straight answer to the king's question." Haman left the palace that day happy, beaming, and then he saw Mordecai sitting at the king's gate, ignoring him, oblivious to him. Haman was furious with Mordecai, but he held himself in and went on home. He got his friends together with his wife, Zeresh, and started bragging about how much money he had, his many sons, all the times the king had honored him, and his promotion to the highest position in the government. "On top of all that," Haman continued, "Queen Esther invited me to a private dinner she gave for the king, just the three of us, and she invited me to another one tomorrow. But I can't enjoy any of it when I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." His wife Zeresh and all his friends said, "Build a gallows 75 feet high. First thing in the morning, speak with the king, get him to order Mordecai hanged on it. Then happily go with the king to dinner." Haman liked that. He had the gallows built. That night the king couldn't sleep. He ordered the record book, the day-by-day journal of events, to be brought and read to him. They came across the story there about the time that Mordecai had exposed the plot of Bigthana and Teresh, the two royal eunuchs who guarded the entrance and who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. The king asked, "What great honor was given to Mordecai for this?" "Nothing," replied the king's servants who were in attendance. "Nothing's been done for him." The king said, "Is there anybody out in the court?" Now Haman had just come into the outer court of the king's palace to talk to the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows he had built for him. The king's servant said, "Haman is out there waiting in the court." "Bring him in," said the king. When Haman entered, the king said, "What would be appropriate for the man the king especially wants to honor?" Haman thought to himself, "He must be talking about honoring me. Who else?" So he answered the king, "For the man the king delights to honor, do this. Bring a royal robe that the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crown on its head. Then give the robe and the horse to one of the king's most noble princes. Have him robe the man who the king especially wants to honor. Have the prince lead him on horseback through the city square, proclaiming before him, 'This is what is done for the man whom the king especially wants to honor.'" "Go and do it," the king said to Haman. "Don't waste another minute. Take the robe and the horse and do what you've proposed to Mordecai the Jew who sits at the king's gate. Don't leave out a single detail of your plan." So Haman took the robe and the horse. He robed Mordecai and led him through the city square, proclaiming before him, "This is what is done for the man whom the king especially wants to honor." Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman fled to his house, thoroughly mortified, hiding his face. When Haman had finished telling his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him, his knowledgeable friends who were there and his wife Zeresh said, "If Mordecai is in fact a Jew, your bad luck has only begun. You don't stand a chance against him. You're as good as ruined." While they were still talking, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried Haman off to the dinner that Esther had prepared for him.